deacon or even a concelebrating priest. No? Normally, it's the presider who places the bread and the wine on the corporal. Uh, if you remember Smolersky, How Not to Say Mass, he describes this beautifully. No? It doesn't make sense that you prepare the chalice and the ciborium and already place them on the corporal. And then comes the presider and he lifts them up again. His recommendation even is the gifts should not touch the altar before the blessed are you, Lord, have been said by the presider. So it's not the deacon, it's not the assisting minister who places them on the corporal. It's the presider. It's the presider. And only after he has said, "Blessed are you, Lord." The problem is when you have more than one vessel for bread and more than one vessel for chalice. Solution? The others, the extra vessels, can already be placed on the altar. But the ceremonial vessels, that is the main vessel, should be given to the presider. And let him be the one to place them on the corporal. So ideally, the deacon should stand here and wait for the presider to come and hands on to him the vessel, the bread. That's the idea. uh, yeah. Anything else? Okay. You're familiar with the liturgy section of Zenith in the internet. And a certain Father Edward McNamara responds to various questions from all over the world. And the responses are enlightening, no? And here is one question from Australia regarding a lay MC. There was a question yesterday about is it still possible to have a lay for an MC? And the question is something like this. What when we say to a lay MC who makes the claim, I am the one in charge here? And this happens in a kind of a national conference with bishops and priests. And the lay, because he was the MC, insisted, I am the one in charge today. Can he make that claim? Okay. And then he goes on to cite the pertinent numbers from Ceremoniale Episcoporum, which I already explained yesterday. And after that, he said, the qualities mentioned in these norms in no way exclude the possibility of a lay master of ceremonies. So it's possible to have a lay. No? And indeed, there are many excellent lay masters in churches and cathedrals around the globe. In this sense, the question of obedience towards the master of ceremonies or of his being in charge should be largely beside the point. Preparing a proper liturgical celebration is a collaborative effort in which the master of ceremonies coordinates beforehand with various persons involved. A master of ceremonies who arrives saying he is in charge has probably failed in his duties to adequately prepare the ceremonies in advance. If anybody is properly speaking in charge of the celebration, who is he? It's the principal celebrant, not the MC. For example, it is he and not the master of ceremonies who determines the text to be used, which optional ritual elements are included or omitted, and what is to be sung or recited. In preparing the celebration, the MC may make suggestions to the celebrant as to what is most appropriate, but the final decision rests with the celebrant. The celebration can even make changes during the course of the celebration if unforeseen circumstances recommend it. The MC is in charge of coordinating all those who assist at Mass, and these should diligently follow his instruction. Although we say that strictly speaking, concelebrants do not owe obedience to the MC. This statement must be qualified in some cases. There are situations in which a large number of concelebrants arrive shortly before the beginning of Mass, and it is materially impossible to prepare the celebration beforehand. In such cases, the priest should punctually follow the MC's indications, not so much out of obedience to his person as to obedience towards the reverent and dignified celebration of Mass. As you know, if you insist on your title very much, how do you call that? Entitlement. Something is kind of not right. Okay. You're familiar with the book, which is a good accompaniment to Ceremonial Episcoporum, the one edited by a certain Bishop Eliot. You're familiar with that? It's also very handy and very practical. And he has beautiful things to say about MC. If you don't mind, I read some of them. It's by Bishop Peter Eliot, Ceremonies of the Modern Roman Rite. Okay, so he repeats what is already indicated in Ceremoniale Episcoporum. But in addition to that, in number 173, for instance, he says, the good MC is unobtrusive, calm, and dignified. He moves without haste. He has great freedom of movement so as to attend to all details. But he never abuses this freedom by distracting behavior during readings or sacred actions. He directs discreetly without obvious gestures or comments, nor does he take the place of the deacon beside the celebrant. If he has to discipline misbehavior, he acts with restraint, at least while walking in procession or working in the sanctuary. I remember, without mentioning names, installation of a bishop. And the MC was so bothered that there was a long procession at the presentation of the gifts. And some of the gifts, of course, were personal gifts to the new bishop, not for the sacrifice, for the mass. And of course, the MC was right. No? A personal gift should not be given during the procession of the gifts. No? They should be given after, personally, to the person himself. And the same is true with birthday of the priest, of the parish priest, no? Anniversary. The presentation of the gifts should not be the occasion for them to give their personal gifts to the priest. No? It should be after. Anyway, but what was really distracting was when the MC ran, literally ran. He ran from behind the altar down to the aisle and there was the governor and the mayor of the city. Doesn't look nice, right? And so unwelcoming. Yeah, you know. People make mistakes, no? But we don't have to go into that extent of, I like this principle, no, as a rule. Uh, the, During the celebration itself, that's not the best time to give correction. That's not the best time to give correction. Yeah. Before the celebration or discreetly. Discreetly. Uh, remember this, we were still in Rome. And well, Clinton was visiting Rome. And he had an audience with the Pope. And they agreed to disagree. That was on the abortion issue and some of these contraceptive policies of the United States. So the paper in Italian, no? Clinton and Pope John Paul, they agreed to disagree in Italian. But that weekend, you know that Clinton was not a Catholic. It's not a Catholic, Presbyterian or Episcopalian. And he spent his weekend in southern Italy. And there was no church of his own. And so he went to the Roman Catholic parish. And of course, people were watching if he would receive communion. Oh, he received communion. And the parish priest gave him communion. He was not stuck. And the Pope was, his comment was sought after that. He just smiled. You know, there's correction is to be given. You don't put the person into shame. Don't embarrass the person. Okay. Nawala, no? Sana yun. Okay. Here is more that Bishop Elliot says. He must be the MC. He must know what everyone is supposed to do and where all are meant to be at each moment of the liturgy. Therefore, much of his skill depends on the ability to see ahead, anticipate, to see ahead. One, he must be aware of variations in the ceremonial or text of a particular celebration. Be aware of some other possible options. No? Particular situation may demand some other option. Okay. So, B, he must know exactly what happens next, anticipating the movements of servers so that they are prompt with the book, incense, and others. He should be a person who can keep fine details in his mind while being aware of the shape and unity of the liturgical celebration. Regarding the purple cassock, this is what he says. It may be customary for the diocesan MC to wear a purple cassock and sas when assisting the bishop. If he is not a prelate, the buttons and trimmings are also purple. Thus, with respect to the proper vesture, the law allows for several legitimate possibilities, not excluding the wearing of the dalmatic for a deacon. His personal preference, though, is the deacon MC should not be wearing dalmatic. In the same way that the priest MC should not be wearing chasuble or stole. Wearing an alb is a possibility. Then he says, but if the MC is a priest, again, he should not wear a stole, as the duty of MC would usually exclude him from being a concelebrant. For this reason, he should never wear a chasuble. When the option of gossip and surplice is used, it is a good practice for the MC to use a surplice of a distinctive design that is different from that of the other servers so as to be easily identified by various ministers. Uh, this should, to me, this, yeah, something that would distinguish him as the MC, but not so distinctive so as to, to draw the attention away from the presider. Sometimes the MC is prettier than the prettier. Uh, the use of purple cassock may be either a privilege, as in the case of pontifical MCs, or simply a legitimate custom for the diocesan MC. When already in use, it may be maintained, but should probably not be introduced where it is unknown. I don't know what, I suppose this is something personal. Yeah? Yeah. What do you think of that? Okay. Can I read it again? So, the use of the purple cassock may either be a privilege, as in the case of pontifical MCs, or simply a legitimate custom for the diocesan MC. When already in use, it may be maintained, but should probably not be introduced where it is unknown. I agree. I agree. So he should usually be unobtrusive. Unobtrusive. And Pope Francis, Pope Francis, as we know yesterday, he even says, the more he is invisible, the better. Discreet. Okay. Anything else for M6? Nakalimutan pa ako. Okay. Yeah. The Pope usually has two MCs, no? And in fact, this was asked to Father McNamara. And he said, it's an understandable, the two MCs standing right next to the Pope all the time, and he says, it's an understandable exception because of the distinct, unique character of papal celebrations. By the way, papal celebrations are not meant to be models for diocesan and parochial celebrations. So you can never claim the Pope does it, so we should do it. No. Papal celebrations are always unique celebrations. And of course, the Episcopal liturgy in the cathedral, that's meant to be imitable in all parishes, but not with papal liturgies. Common mistake in celebrations. If there are other qualified ministers present, one of them should proclaim the gospel, never the presider. Proclaiming the gospel is ministerial, yes, but it is not presidential. So if there are other qualified ministers, that is a deacon or a concelebrating priest, one of them has to proclaim the gospel, even when the presider himself gives the homily. Even if, always. If the bishop is a concelebrant, and he reads the gospel, no, one qualified minister. Uh, you know, there are various opinions of this. This should be seen as something abnormal. The bishop can never be a concelebrant to his priest. Never. Uh, I mean, it's a protocol, but I could understand in daily, ordinary masses, for instance, in a meeting of clergy who are just themselves, but in an official, celebration like in the cathedral, no, doesn't look good that the bishop is simply uh, concelebrating. Uh, I mentioned about the proper arrangement. The bishop always, if it is in his cathedral, he presides always. He may begin, but even right after the greeting, the celebrant priest takes over. But he occupies the chair. I suppose if it were in a parish church, if he does not want to be the celebrant, the same. He's given a special chair, and after the greeting, the pastor takes over. And he gives the final blessing. What can be confusing and even disturbing to the lay is when the bishop, who has no scheduled community mass, simply joins the lay congregation at mass. And so many people are bothered by that. You remember Father Nosang. Father Nosang was one of the council periti, and he was very active in the implementation of Sacrosanctum Concilium. I mentioned this in class. No? After ordination, you can never be laicized at Mass. Meaning, if you are at Mass, you cannot but celebrate or concelebrate. Always. By reason of ordination. And now you understand why the insistence on how concelebrants should so position themselves in that liturgical space. It should not happen that you have priests behind and in front you have lay people. This should be distinguished as con-celebrant. That is why, I will mention this at the deacons next week. When assisting the deacons, two or just one, the deacon should not position himself in between the bishop and the main celebrating priest. So he has to be near the presider to be handy when he is needed by the bishop. He has to be near, but he should so position himself a little behind the main concelebrating priest. You find that in the rubrics. He is not a concelebrant. Okay. What else? Yes.
The MC required to remain beside the celebrant during the Eucharistic
Yay. Yes, no. Yeah, nine. So, if there is a deacon, let the deacon do his job. And the MC may be a little behind. A little behind. But if you don't have a deacon, then this question has often been asked to Father McNamara because that's what they see on TV, and his answer is consistent. It's an understandable exception. That's what he says. Okay.